The studio lights of 60 Minutes were softer than usual that evening, casting a calm glow across the iconic set. But beneath that calm, tension moved like an invisible current. Producers hurried in hushed tones, assistants adjusted microphones twice, and the director kept glancing nervously at the door leading to the greenroom. Prince Harry had arrived. Anderson Cooper stood beside his chair, flipping through his notes with a neutral expression that fooled no one. Anderson had interviewed presidents, generals, whistleblowers, and war survivors, but the prince's team had already sent 3 sets of instructions, demands, and gentle requests regarding what topics to avoid. Anderson didn't avoid. The camera assistant signaled 5 minutes until live taping. Through the glass panel, Anderson watched Harry pace the greenroom like a restless lion. Shoulders stiff, jaw tight, hands flexing again and again. Harry wasn't unfamiliar with interviews, but this was different. 60 Minutes had teeth. And tonight, those teeth were sharp. When Harry entered the studio, he greeted Anderson with a polite nod. But the prince's eyes gave him away, tired, defensive, wary. "Good evening," Anderson said calmly. "Evening," Harry replied, sitting down and adjusting his jacket. "Let's keep this straightforward." Anderson gave a small, unreadable smile. "Of course." The director counted down. 3, 2, 1. The red light blinked on. Tonight, we are joined by Prince Harry, Anderson began, his voice level, professional. Here to speak about recent controversies, his new projects, and the questions millions still want answered. Harry returned the polite, "Thank you," but his grip tightened on the arm of the chair. Anderson started gently. Questions about Harry's charity work, mental health advocacy, and life in California. Harry spoke smoothly, the practiced calm of someone who had rehearsed every sentence with PR experts. But then Anderson flipped to a new page of notes. A page Harry's team definitely hadn't approved. "Prince Harry," Anderson said, locking eyes with him, "your critics say you've spent years condemning the press while simultaneously relying on the press to stay relevant. How do you respond to that?" Harry blinked. The smile dropped. "Well, that's an oversimplification," he began. Anderson didn't look away. "Is it?" Harry shifted. "I speak out against unfair treatment. Against intrusion. That doesn't mean I can't share my own side of the story." "So you get to choose when the press is acceptable," Anderson said, "as long as the coverage benefits you." Harry froze for a second, just long enough for the cameras to catch it. "That's not what I said," he replied sharply. Anderson continued, his tone unchanging. "Do you believe you have ever contributed to the very media machine you criticize?" Harry inhaled. "Everyone contributes to it in some way. But I've been harmed by it. And harmed others through it." Anderson pressed. Harry stared at him, disbelief widening his eyes. "Are you seriously suggesting?" "I'm asking a question many viewers want answered." The studio temperature seemed to drop. Even the camera operators had stopped breathing. Harry leaned forward, his voice rising. "You don't understand what it's like to live under constant scrutiny." "And yet," Anderson replied, "you've chosen to do multiple interviews, a memoir, a documentary, and now another round of press on a new project. You've stepped back from royal duties, but not from the spotlight." Harry's jaw clenched. "I'm trying to tell my story." Anderson didn't blink, or control the narrative. Harry opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His cheeks burned with frustration. Anderson continued in the same steady tone. "Let's talk about your relationship with your family." Harry stiffened. "That wasn't part of the agreed topics." Anderson placed the paper down. "Your team's list doesn't dictate our journalism." A pin could have dropped in the studio, and it would have echoed. Harry exhaled slowly, fury simmering beneath his skin. "You invited me here under the assumption of fairness. And I'm being fair," Anderson replied calmly. "But fairness isn't softness. Fairness is honesty." "Honesty." Harry shot back. "You're twisting everything." Anderson finally leaned forward, matching Harry's posture. "Prince Harry, you've asked the world to hear your truth. Tonight, the world wants to hear your accountability." Harry's face went pale, then red. The director waved frantically from behind the glass, signaling for Anderson to ease off, but Anderson stayed locked in. The tension between them had evolved into something electric, uncomfortable, riveting, impossible to look away from. Harry rubbed his forehead, struggling to keep his composure. "You're not trying to interview me," he said quietly. "You're trying to corner me." I'm trying to understand you, Anderson replied. Without filters. Without rehearsed answers. Without PR. Harry closed his eyes for a moment. His breathing was uneven now. When he opened them again, he spoke through gritted teeth. This conversation is over. He unhooked his microphone and stood. The crew panicked. The director mouthed, "Don't leave." A producer rushed forward, but Harry brushed past. Anderson remained seated, watching silently. The camera kept rolling. Harry reached the studio door. And then stopped. He turned back, voice trembling with anger. "You wanted a spectacle," he said. "Congratulations." And with that, he walked out, leaving Anderson alone under the hot studio lights. The red recording light blinked silently, capturing every second. Anderson exhaled, closed his notebook, and spoke one final line into the camera. "We'll continue after the break." The moment Prince Harry exited the studio, chaos flooded the control room. Producers scrambled, headsets crackling with overlapping voices. "Get him back. Cut to commercial now." Is Anderson okay staying live? Anderson Cooper, still sitting in his chair, simply adjusted his notes and waited. His expression remained unreadable, calm on the surface, but even he knew the interview had crossed into uncharted territory. As the cameras cut to commercial, Anderson finally stood. He walked off the set and into the dim hallway behind the studio. A few crew members whispered nervously, unsure whether to approach him or leave him alone. He found Harry just around the corner. The prince stood with his back against the wall, hands shaking slightly as he tried to rebutton his jacket. A member of his team fussed around him, whispering frantic advice, but Harry brushed him away. Anderson approached slowly. "Harry," he said, voice level, "we can continue this. It doesn't have to end this way." Harry looked up sharply. "You ambushed me. I asked questions," Anderson replied. "That's what journalism is. Not when the intention is to humiliate," Harry snapped. "You wanted a moment, something viral, something you could replay for the rest of your career." Anderson crossed his arms. "Or maybe I wanted honesty. You came here to speak your truth, but truth doesn't work if it only flows one direction." Harry's jaw tightened again, but this time there was something else in his eyes: hurt, exhaustion, maybe even fear. For a moment, neither man spoke. Then one of the producers rushed toward them. "We're back in 30 seconds. Anderson, we need a statement. Prince Harry, the network wants to offer a reset if you're willing." Harry hesitated. His breathing slowed. His shoulders dropped. He pressed a hand to his forehead. Finally, he muttered, What would a reset look like?" Anderson answered before the producer could. "You sit back down. We continue, with respect, but without restrictions. You answer truthfully. I listen truthfully." Harry looked at him, measuring that answer. "And you won't try to destroy me again." Anderson's voice softened. "I don't want to destroy you. I want to understand you." The prince swallowed hard. The producer held up 2 fingers, 10 seconds. Harry looked at the studio door, the one he stormed out of just minutes ago. Then he nodded. "Fine," he whispered. "Let's finish this. .. Back on set, the lights warmed again. Anderson and Harry both sat, composure restored but tension still humming like static between them. The red light blinked on. Anderson began, slower this time. "Welcome back. Prince Harry has agreed to continue our conversation." Harry straightened in his chair. "Look," he said, voice steady but low, "I left earlier because I felt attacked. I still do to an extent. But I also know I came here to be heard. So I'm here." Anderson nodded. "I appreciate that." For a moment, the world watching held its breath. Then Anderson asked, "Why does it matter so much to you that the public understands your choices?" Harry looked down at his hands. His voice softened, almost vulnerable. "Because, so much of my life has been written for me. People decide who I am before I even speak. When I try to correct it, they say I'm complaining. When I stay silent, they say I'm guilty." He paused. The studio fell silent with him. "I'm tired, Anderson. Tired of being the villain, tired of being the victim, tired of running from a past I never asked for." Anderson listened closely. "So what do you want?" Harry looked directly at him now. "To be human. Just human. Not a headline. Not a scandal. Not a traitor. Just a man trying to protect his family and make sense of a life that's never made sense." For the first time that night, Anderson's expression softened completely. "And with that honesty," he said, "we can have a real conversation. What followed over the next 30 minutes was unlike anything viewers expected. Anderson asked firm but fair questions. Harry answered without defensiveness. Together they unpacked grief, identity, responsibility, and the burden of being born into a role he never chose. By the end, the studio felt lighter. When the final segment wrapped, Anderson extended his hand. Harry looked at it for a moment, then shook it. The tension of earlier had dissolved into something almost like respect. As Harry prepared to leave, he turned back one more time. "You're tough," he said quietly. "But, maybe that's what I needed tonight." Anderson smiled faintly. "Honesty goes both ways." Harry nodded, then walked out of the studio, not as a defeated guest, but as someone who had reclaimed a piece of himself. And Anderson watched him go, knowing the world would talk about this interview for years, but also knowing the real turning point had happened off camera, in that quiet hallway where two men finally spoke truth without armor.